Hi, ladies. I'm Leslie Warren, and I am excited to be sharing with you again in our devotional through Nehemiah. We're going to be looking at Nehemiah 3 and talking a little bit about service and being willing to work together for the glory of God. And a question I have really quick is, have you ever been at church or at PWOC and thought to yourself, I wish they did this here? Or at church, maybe, I wish someone would do such and such with the Sunday school classes. Or I wish there were more snacks, something like that. Well, this is a small picture of what Nehemiah is witnessing here in Jerusalem. The people may have been looking around sometimes and saying, I really wish this sheep's gate was fixed, or maybe they were thinking, I really wish the wall by my house was fixed. And so Nehemiah is here now, and his response to that is, yeah, that's great. You do it. And so we're going to be talking about this list of people for a minute of people in Jerusalem that were willing to jump in and do the work. And the most interesting part about it is lots of them sound like they probably didn't do construction. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to point out a few verses. In verse 8, you have goldsmiths. These are guys who they might have been really talented at working with hot metal and some tools, but I don't think they typically did construction like walls. Also in verse 8, perfumers. I don't think I need to say anything about them. In verse 9, you have mentioned Raphiah, who's a ruler of a district of Jerusalem. There's other rulers mentioned. And I think they're mentioned by name specifically because they were willing to come and do the work and not just send their servants. And they probably were used to people doing things for them. In verse 17, you have the Levites. That's a tribe of Israel that was typically priesthood. And in verses 22 and 28, more priests are mentioned as working to build the wall. These guys probably really good at sacrificing animals or making an offering on an altar, but I doubt they built gates and walls. And then in verse 32, you have goldsmiths mentioned again and merchants. Merchants could have been doing anything. They could have been selling fabric, or they could have been in trade with like food or animals, and they could have been selling pottery. There's a lot of things merchants could have been doing, but I doubt building a wall was one of them. So what's the point of this? What does our response need to be in light of serving today? And how do we humbly serve like these people in Jerusalem with Nehemiah? Well, I have a few verses I wanted to point out from the New Testament. One is John 13, 3 through 5. This is where Jesus washes the disciples' feet. And this would have been just the worst job for the lowliest servant. I don't think anyone really wanted to do this job because people walked around in sandals in these dirty, dusty, disgusting streets where livestock walk through as well. And it would have been awful. So service looks like being willing to do the job no one else wants to do. In Matthew 20, 20 through 28, Jesus tells his disciples, whoever would be great among you must be your servant, as the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So service looks like being willing to lay down your life, your preference, and your time and plans for the gospel. It's for his glory. It's not about me being seen and looking a certain way. It's about the kingdom being built. And in 1 Corinthians 12, Paul talks about how there's a variety of gifts and there's a lot of different talents people can have, but it's the same God who empowers all of them. And what's the point of that? It's that we are one body, serving one Lord, with one purpose, and that is his kingdom being built, not mine, not my little agenda or what I think things should look like. And it's for his glory and not mine. And so as we work together, we function like we should. Then we are the body. The hands need the arms and the feet need the legs. And when we serve Jesus humbly together, we will accomplish his purposes. We don't need to be so caught up in what our idea of what church should look like is, or what our own personal agendas might be, or what we think our own spiritual gifts are, that we aren't willing to jump in and do the work that no one else wants to do. In Nehemiah 3, we're seeing merchants and perfumers build walls. That probably wasn't their gift, their talent, but they were willing to jump in and do the work. I think it's more important that we are willing to see the needs and meet them than serve in our particular gifting or specialty. And in 1 Corinthians 13, Paul says it doesn't really matter what your gifts are, even if they're these cool gifts of prophecy or tongues. It doesn't matter if you don't love people and don't humbly serve the Lord. It doesn't matter. You're going to be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. So I think it's more important for us to look at Nehemiah 3 and say, these people were willing to get in and do the work that no one else wanted to do. And so I think our challenge here then is to be willing to go to our church leaders, or if you're not attending church, ask our president, Michelle, or ask me, what are the needs? What are ways that I can serve? What is a job we need done that no one's willing to do? At your church, is anyone helping set up for food, hospitality? Is anyone willing to help clean up the trash afterwards? Jump in and do that. Be willing to build that part of the wall. Just be willing to pray first. Pray, ask the Lord, and ask people in authority in your church or in PWOC, what are the needs? Where can I help rebuild the wall? Thanks.